We had a tiny little cameo there. Hello, welcome to the show. My name is Chris. I'm your host. This is the weekly Spinner Rack, where I'm going to talk to you about all the interesting big comics that came out this week and also the comic book news of the week. And we'll just sort of riff on that, get the chat going, and we're going to have a good time. Let me see if I can lure my kittens over here with some plastic crinkling sounds. Just some ASMR for you all. That's Lily. Ready, Lily? Go get it. She likes to play fetch. So yes, we've got a guest there. Look, see? If she gets bored, she'll bring that to me to throw for her again. I am going to take a quick sip of coffee to perk myself up, and let's just rattle through some of the folks that are here. Lovely to have so many folks in right away. This is great. Was playing Minesweeper. Yeah, well, this is at least as good as Minesweeper. Hey, Jeannie, lovely to have you here. Let's see. I want to see the slow-mo replay of that. Yeah, I know. That would be fun. Let's see. Mike signed comics, pin, and plush all arrived safely. Thank you. No, honestly, Indy and Omni, thank you. I really appreciate your support. It was exciting to sort of do my first crowd-funded mainstream comic project. Like, that was a lot of fun for me. Hey, Shane, good to see you. It was nice seeing you this past week. Let's see. We've got all sorts of familiar faces, and am I going to draw tonight? If there's time. Yeah, if there's time, if I go through the news fast enough and the reviews and stuff like that, then I will. We'll see how it goes. Lily just brought me the plastic. You folks saw that I tossed that piece of plastic? She just ran it upstairs to my wife to play. That's so funny. My comic and plush are very. I agree, they are very. Hello, Sigmix. Thanks for watching and joining us through Twitch. Let's see. What kind of hot piping caffeinated beverage are you drinking? Just regular coffee, but I do add a sugar-free syrup to it. This one's white chocolate. So basically, tastes kind of like a mocha. It's pretty darn nice. Hello, Samuel. Hey, Kevin. It's been a long time. Nice to have you in here, though. I always appreciate that. Thank you for your support. Let's see. Oh, first dono. Thank you. Thank you very much. That's an exciting start to everything. I heard that there's a good documentary on Dave Stevens, most famous for The Rocketeer. I have not had time to see it yet. It has been a busy week of comic book stuff. It's TV shows and stuff, but yeah, I haven't watched that documentary. I should. I definitely should. What's on my shirt? My friend John got me this. It's obviously an homage to Jack Kirby's cover of Hulk 1, but it's a reference to Jason Voorhees, and they've sort of drawn him as the little boy we get a cameo of at the end of the first movie. And then this sort of looks to be, I would say, his appearance in the third movie, if I had to guess. So it's one of those mashup t-shirts that you used to see at the comic book conventions all the time. I feel like I honestly don't see enough unique, funny t-shirts at comic conventions anymore. The really big ones, like, say, New York or San Diego, yeah, you can find those hoodies and funny shirts, but I feel like at the sort of your city's big one or whatever, there used to be more t-shirts. And now that I'm thinking of it, boy, conventions do keep changing. If I go to a convention now, I feel like what you see a lot of are the mystery boxes, and still a lot of vendors trying to unload Funko Pops. And I'm like, I don't think that there's as much of a market for that anymore. When I first started going to, not when I first started going to conventions, but early on when I was going to conventions, there used to be so many bootleg videos. It could just be stuff that was like filmed by somebody with a camcorder at a movie theater, like you'd see Blade within a week or something, but also a lot of just old stuff that was taped off TV and otherwise kind of considered lost media, and sometimes stuff that was imported bootleg style from Japan and Hong Kong. I kind of miss that a little bit. I miss getting to see those huge tables full of nothing but tapes. I miss that a little bit. Anyway, let's see. No, I've never done anything on Valiant specifically. The closest would be, I mean, it's mentioned here and there, but I did do an episode about Jim Shooter. And of course, you have to address him helping start up that company. I would like to talk about them sometime. Let me add a window here. Look at that. Just another banger of a thumbnail, right? It's a little clickbaity, but it's also something that we're going to talk about. Just crazy to me that this alleged human trafficker is pumping out a comic, and boy, is it an embarrassing looking one. Let's see. Oh yeah, thank you so much for this. Yeah, it's true. So finally got out the latest episode of my show, and it's about Slam Dunk, one of my favorite mangas and probably my favorite sports comic of all time. And it's it's a manga from the 90s, so it's super popular and influential in Japan. Not as well known in the English-speaking world. I mean, there was an anime, but not as many people know about it. So today's video on comic tropes, not getting tons of views compared to like most videos, but it's something I was passionate about, and I just had to put it out. So I really appreciate the kind words. Thank you so much. Whoa, my mic is wiggling around. Love the Slam Dunk video. Definitely going to check it out. I think you'll love it. I'm not a huge sports guy. I like sports, but I'm not like the biggest guy for remembering stats and statistics. But boy, did I love the Slam Dunk manga. Just think it's incredible. Just so good. Let's get into the news. There's so much to talk about that I really shouldn't dawdle. I should not take too long here. I wanted to start with this because Secret Invasion ended. If you watched it, cool. We're going to talk about it a little. If you didn't, I promise you're not missing anything. It was not like embarrassing, but it was just sort of nothing. They just did nothing with this huge concept. The only reason to enjoy it is the fact that actors like Samuel Jackson, Don Cheadle, and Olivia Colman can literally make anything interesting. You know, like if they were just reading from the phone book, you'd still be somewhat interested because of their delivery. So they are interesting on screen, but the story is just nothing. Well, you know, sort of a spoiler, but honestly, I feel like you either were going to watch this and already have, or you don't care. But one of the twists was that Rhodey, War Machine, was a Skrull. We found that out like the first or second episode. But anyway, when though would that character have been replaced? You know, that should be a reveal that has some impact and you know, means something. Well, the director, there was one guy who directed all the episodes, said definitively that James Rhodes got replaced by a Skrull 7 years ago, right after the events of Captain America Civil War, when he had first been injured. Probably it was like, you know, in a hospital or something, and a Skrull kidnapped him and posed as him so that he could be, you know, close to the president. Although fans have pointed out that there's no way Marvel had planned that back then. There's just no way, because, for instance, in Avengers Endgame, he's one of the Avengers, and he gets injured and he bleeds red blood. Well, whenever Skrulls bleed, it's green. That's one of the telltale signs that you've found an infiltrator. So, you know, it doesn't really make sense. Is that a mistake? Is that like a new retcon? I would say that it's this director like supposing something that sort of makes sense on paper, but as soon as you actually look at the performances and how his appearances have been up until recently, it doesn't really hold water. I think that they're going to have to change that if that's what they think they're going to tell people. It just doesn't make sense. By the way, the reviews for this, especially after the final episode, one of the all-time worst reviewed comic book projects. If you go to IMDb, the last I saw for comic book reviewed projects, only Son of the Mask was reviewed lower. That was the Jamie Kennedy sequel to the Jim Carrey movie, Dark Horse comic. Anyway, it's weird because as I was watching Secret Invasion each week, I was like, this is interesting. It could go somewhere. I guess I thought that they were holding back and that, like, War Machine might show up in the final episode. I don't know, a post-credit scene teasing the Marvels with like Carol Danvers, something like that. There was nothing. There was just not much happened. Just not a lot happened. I didn't expect them to do something as big as the comics, where tons of superheroes are revealed to have been Skrulls for a while. Although I have to admit that wasn't one of my personal favorite comic series either. But as a show, it felt like the stakes were really, really low. Somehow it just didn't feel that big. I don't know. Moving on. Let's go talk about what I put in the thumbnail, and I just want to get it out of the way because I just find it distasteful to talk about Andrew Tate. I'm not a fan. I think that, he's part of this manosphere, and I feel like the message that he has is very sexist and old-fashioned, and I can see why it appeals to a lot of lonely men, but I don't think it's very healthy. I think that he scams his people, his fans. I think he scams them. He just sells them classes and stuff that are like, really not giving them any real tools. Just my opinion, okay? And hey, I don't feel bad about talking bad about him because this guy is almost definitely going to be convicted as a human trafficker. That case is still going on in Romania right now where he lives. But he's been banned on a lot of platforms, obviously. So he's looking for a new way to reach lonely men, lonely, sad, incel type men. And I guess a comic book is his new idea, which, fine. Lots of people make comic books. And I don't care if you have different politics and you want to make a comic book and it appeals to people. That whatever, everybody can have their own entertainment, I guess. But look at this. These are not like sketches. These are pages that the official Twitter account for the comic book are sharing. This looks so amateurish. I mean, really look at things like this hand. Like, the perspective is terrible. The anatomy is terrible. Like, what is even happening with this guy's waist? I don't understand. It just looks terrible. The coloring, I think, is honestly pretty... It looks like Photoshop from, like, the early 90s. And he's charging $97 for this comic book about himself. $97. I assume that there's shipping and taxes and stuff like that applied to it. $100. I didn't see exactly how many pages, but I'd be surprised if it's more than 48. It did not look good. Well, I sort of... $97. Yeah. It's not worth a single cent. It's not to probably any of us watching this because we are critical of comics. And not everything has to be perfect, but come on. Like, this looks like he's got money. He's got money, and he obviously did not hire anyone too talented. Nothing about this looks original or interesting. It's a scam, This is what makes me say, like, his classes and stuff are a scam. The stuff that he did, like forcing women to be cam girls, basically working out of a dungeon. I mean, it's just crazy. So I'm sure some of his followers will buy this, but this ain't going to bring anybody new in. And it certainly isn't going to make anybody a fan of comics that wasn't a fan of comics before. I feel like the least you could do is, if you had some money like he does, hire somebody that's better at art than this for a comic book. This just looks terrible to me. So, yeah. They might, but I have to, even some of the folks in that movement are still more talented art-wise than this. So that is the current, I think, scam. Like $97 for a comic. I don't know how you can justify charging that much. 97. I mean, you can get 500-page omnibuses for like half that price. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, there's no way the numbers there make any sense at all. So that is somebody getting into comics that, boy, I don't see a lot more coming if this is what they look like. That is not looking awesome. But we've got other news, and some of it's even fun. Here's some mainstream stuff. DC announced a book that I thought sounded kind of interesting. It's called City of Madness. I'm not super familiar with Christian Ward, but Christian Ward is going to both write and illustrate this 3-issue Black Label series. It's going to start in October. This is sort of a cover art that he did, which I think has some really great colors, to be honest. I really think that that's a great contrast. Ward has tweeted that this is his cosmic horror Batman story, and I'm not quite sure where the cosmic horror element comes in yet, but he says that the plot involves sort of being set in the subterranean levels below Gotham City. It's called the Gotham Below, and it's been guarded apparently for many, many decades or whatever by the Court of Owls, sort of a weird organization that is like an Illuminati of Gotham City. More recent Batman villain, all things considered. It's still been around for, 10 years more? But anyway, a dark version of Batman is going to escape. They've got like sort of their own Batman, and he's going to escape from the Gotham Below to train a Robin. And so Batman's going to be forced to ally with the Court of Owls to stop this new character. I don't know. Could be good. Any of you out there read any Christian Ward? When he says cosmic horror, keep in mind on this image here, we are seeing these tentacles. Does sort of imply, a Lovecraftian elder god mythology. So maybe that's what's been hidden below Gotham all this time. Batman got wizard hands on the cover. Yes, wizards tend to do this, don't they? Or by the hoary hosts of Hoggoth. What's ODYC? Since I haven't really read much by Christian Ward, that isn't coming to me right now. Yeah, Court of Owls definitely has lots of potential. They should probably put that in one of the live-action movies soon. I don't think it's that kind of Ward, no. His art in Black Bolt was dope. Well, that's good to hear. And then somebody else said the same thing. Phil says his Black Bolt art with Ahmed was gorgeous. All right. Bela Lugosi hands. Holy old ones, Batman. Could be interesting. Bloodstained Teeth was a nice vampire story. Yeah, I've heard that. I need to read that. I love horror, but I haven't read Bloodstained Teeth yet. That's through Image, isn't it? Or is that Boom Studios? I forget, but I'll have to check that out. Anyway, hold on. ODYC was a series with Matt Fraction for Image that ended kind of early. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. And you think that Robert Pattinson and Matt Reeves indicated their interest in the Court of Owls? I think that there's threads that the Batman could pull on to easily introduce either or both Hush and Court of Owls. It's funny. I haven't rewatched that movie yet, although I really did like it. But I've been thinking about that movie a lot because I'm enjoying the Paul Dano Riddler series. It's surprisingly good. He did a Black Label Aquaman book. Wow. Okay. Missed Chris dunking on Tate. I wouldn't say I had any epic burns this time, just that it did not look good. Didn't have enough time to sit down in a writer's room and craft some pithy one-liners to really nail someone. Oh my God, you're so right about that, Paul. I joke about that with my friends, with my comic book store, and I get it. It sells for DC. I do think that they risk burning people out on Batman, especially when you consider how many Batman adjacent titles there are, and some of them I hear are good. Like I've heard great things about the current Poison Ivy run. Nightwing is a pretty amazing comic. There are some good Batman adjacent titles. I've been talking up the Riddler year one. It's really good, but oh my God, there's so many. That's a good question, Wayne. Some of these things I probably take for granted because I come across them so much. Black Label is DC's, we'll call it like mature readers line. Doesn't necessarily have to be explicitly in the regular continuity. Theoretically can be, but doesn't have to be. It's sort of the successor to Vertigo since they ended Vertigo. But it tends to do a lot of superhero stuff within it. Anyway. There's some more Batman stuff. Oh, thank you so much, Francisco. I really do appreciate the super chats. It's really kind. What else do I have here? I don't know what to make of this, folks. I don't know what to make of this. But DC has announced they've got a new villain coming out called Shush. We already had Hush. That was Tommy Elliott, Bruce Wayne's childhood friend who became a doctor and just grew up hating Bruce, wanted to take down Batman, covered himself in bandages and a trench coat. Very pulp-looking villain. I kind of like the simplicity of his costume, honestly. Well, now there's a female version of it called Shush. And I have to say, Shush does not sound as intimidating as Hush. Hush is a command, or it's mysterious. Hush. Shush sounds like something, a parent says to a naughty kid. Shush, shush, we're in church. Shush. They've described it as some sort of a female version of Hush. It's going to debut this character in Batman and Robin #2, written by Joshua Williamson and art by Simone DeMeo. I do respect both of those creators quite a bit. So, I'm not ruling out that they could have something interesting in mind, but the name is kind of weak in my opinion. Thank you, John. Not sure if it was grasped, but Ward's work on Bloodstained Teeth is what will get us excited about the new City of Madness project. Somebody else did mention Bloodstained Teeth. I was not aware of that being a Christian Ward project. That's interesting to know. I guess I got to pick that up. Yeah. When a librarian has had enough, shush. Shush. Hush is back in Karen form. That was a perfect impression of Milhouse from The Simpsons adjusting his pog line. She Hush, or Shush for short, is a pretty good pun. Maybe. Yeah, maybe she could be She-Ush, but that kind of sounds like she's from Tennessee. She-Ush, all y'all. No biscuits and cornbread and gravy unless y'all hush up or shush up. I'm She-Ush. Yeah. Some things we take for granted because we've heard them a million times. I mean, Superman Batman, Spider-Man, they probably do sound a little more absurd if you'd heard them for the first time as an adult with no connection to this stuff. But I think that there are better and worse code names. I think Hush is better than Shush. Shush makes me think of the jerk guy from Encino Man at the end of the movie. It's been too long. I only saw that once back when like it was new, or at least new on VHS. I don't really remember the guy at the end. I'm sorry. Shush sounds like something Dr. Evil will do if they ever do another Austin Powers movie. Scotty, shush. You know, Scott, you just gotta shush. We're gonna shush. Perfect impression again. Perfect impression. You hear that? What you got to say, Kat? You want to come over? Well, I don't know what you want. Jack is down here just talking to me, just being a Bengal cat. Yeah, everyone can hear you. He doesn't want anything. Here's one more piece of Batman news. You are ridiculous, Cat. I love you. I can barely center this for some reason. Okay. This blew my mind. It is the 30th anniversary of Batman Mask of the Phantasm. Which is an awesome, awesome Batman movie, honestly. I think it was so good. It didn't do well at the box office, but boy, I saw it in the theater, and it was something special. It's a really good Batman story. Kind of takes some stuff from Batman Year 2, the comic, but remixes it in a way that makes it a little more personal, I think. Anyway, a new, high def version is coming out, which is fine. What I found interesting was just that, like, they're going to have a special feature that's a tribute to Kevin Conroy, who, of course, most of us think of as Batman. You know, he just is Batman. The special feature is going to be called I Am the Night. And we lost him recently, but of course he did posthumously win an Oscar this year for writing a story in the DC Pride anthology about being Batman, voicing him. Just amazing. Really great talent. Brought something really special to Batman and Bruce Wayne. But if you haven't seen it for any reason, I actually sincerely recommend it. And you don't have to like watch the whole cartoon series or anything. This is a very good standalone story. It's really good. It's really, really good. I would say the animation is like a little better than what they do on TV. Maybe not quite at the level that, a mainstream theatrical release would have now. But it's still a great style. And the voice work is top notch. And most importantly, it's a good story. Eisner winner, Kevin Conroy. It's nice to say. It's a really good. I'm happy that he was able to get that. I think it was deserved. There's a lot of trailer stuff that came out this week. One of them was a trailer for a Spider-Man fan film. Some of you know about this, some of you won't. It's been in the news for a long time. It's got a little bit more money behind it than most fan films. It's called Spider-Man Lotus. It's going to take place like right after the death of Gwen Stacy and adapt a lot of material from this great story called The Kid Who Loved Spider-Man. You can sort of see in this screenshot here, this is Spider-Man sort of walking into that kid's room, and he's got Spider-Man posters and drawings everywhere. It's about a kid that's dying, but is like, he just loves Spider-Man. And, it came out a long time ago, but, his wish was to meet Spider-Man and get to know him a little bit. And Spider-Man even reveals his identity to the kid. It's a sweet and somber comic. It's a great comic book. So it's a good idea for adaptation, I suppose, because it's really unlikely that they'd ever adapt it as a real movie. But this like fan film has been mired in controversy. The actor who plays Peter Parker / Spider-Man, a guy named Warden Wayne, had a bunch of his text messages screenshotted and shared in which he was joking about like racist and homophobic stuff. It was enough that like for a while, the writer-director guy deleted his social media because he just didn't want to talk about it, I guess. The VFX team that was working on this like walked away from the project when that all came out. Here's the thing. It's going to come out for free real soon. It's going to be on YouTube, August 10th. I am curious, is this something that's been on your radar? Is this something you'd want to check out because it's free? You're not giving money to people. Or when somebody like says these things, is that enough that you're like, nah, I'm going to stay away from it? I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it, to be honest. I don't think I have super strong feelings about. I don't think it would be like morally troubling to watch it since I'm not paying for it, but it is kind of weird. It's kind of weird. They did do the storyline in the cartoon. That's cool. That's cool. I didn't know that. I don't know. About 2 hours, though. About 2 hours. Yeah, that's true. You'd rather see India's version of Archie. They are making a musical version for Netflix India. So if you have a VPN, you could always change your location to India, log into your Netflix, and watch the Archie movie that India is making, which does sound interesting to me. Morals aside, I just have no interest in this, and that's fair. I think, what do you call it? Fan films were another staple at earlier conventions, at least 80s into the 90s. There were a lot of fan films that would get like sold there, bootleg copies that would get sold. And it's not really as much of a thing anymore. I think a lot of people will maybe make a scene and put it on YouTube or TikTok, and that's enough that they don't feel the need to like make a whole thing. Oh yeah, fan films have been around forever. Absolutely. Yeah, it does sound interesting. I remember the Lobo fan film. They got the look right. I also remember there was a, what do you call it? There was a Batman versus Predator one that was popular for a while. It was fine. Hey, look at that. Bat in the Sun is pretty impressive. Oh yeah, that's right. They do a bunch of sort of cosplay fight things on YouTube, don't they? Jim, nice to see you here, buddy. I was eating a delicious bagel sandwich this morning and watching your Slam Dunk vid at the same time, and it was all quite glorious. Great job on that. I want to check out the manga. I strongly recommend it, Jim. It's amazing. Not just because of how good it is, but also it's really interesting to see the evolution of an artist. I showed in the video his sort of prototype one-shot manga, which I'm a little surprised almost like got picked up because of like the level of where the art is. And just 2 years later, he was making such huge strides, and he really put a lot of work into becoming a better and better storyteller. Takehiko Inoue, I'm talking about. Just really amazing. Yeah, Batman Dead End. Nice to see you, EJ. I know you got to see, what do you call it? You got to see Slam Dunk over in Taiwan, right? I hope you liked it. I loved it. I really did. I loved the movie version. I talk about that a little bit in my video too. Well, that's nice of you to ask, Wally. First of all, it's definitely not my fan film. I did basically a cameo of like a city worker that's killed by the lizard. They are still working hard on it, giving little updates. A lot of passion, a lot of amazing costumes have been designed by that one. I'll be sure to let you guys know when that fan film comes out. I will. The progression of his style and storytelling is extremely impressive. It really is. And since the story in Slam Dunk is about personal growth, there is a metatextual narrative to Slam Dunk where you're seeing characters evolve at the same time that you're sort of seeing the storyteller evolve. It really lines up well. Really well lines up well. Let me keep moving forward with some news. I got a kick out of this one. This is not a joke. There are going to be some pizza-scented Xbox controllers for Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, which comes out in a few days. Oh, you're back in the US. I'm sorry. That's great. That's great. I'm glad you got to see it, though. So, yeah, Xbox is having, or Microsoft is having a giveaway. There's one controller for each of the Ninja Turtles characters here. And to win, you have to follow Xbox Game Pass on X. That's not a porn site. That is the site formerly known as Twitter. It has been rebranded as X, which I think is a really awful brand. Like, there's no SEO value there at all. And everybody knew Twitter, but whatever. That's not the point of this. The point is, these are pizza-scented game controllers. So you can like follow them and retweet, and they'll choose a random winner to win these. That said, if you really want your game controller to smell like pizza, all you have to do is play a game while eating pizza and not use napkins. So just so you know, you can accomplish this yourself for next to nothing. Next to nothing. Yeah, I've heard that like they can't call themselves X everywhere. So dumb. Thank you, Steve. Here's $2 for the Donnie Controller 4 collection. I would love a Donatello controller. Donatello is my favorite Ninja Turtle. I've got a little bit of a Donatello action figure collection. Yeah, it still says Twitter there on the HTML bar, but the app like has updated for me anyway. It just has an X icon. When I pull it up, it just says X. So just so stupid. So stupid. I don't even like my hands smelling like pizza. Well, guess what? Now your whole game system's going to smell like pizza. Have you ever wondered what it would smell like to wipe a pizza all over an expensive $50 piece of hardware? Wonder no more. Microsoft has you covered. Scratch and sniff technology. That's the one thing video games were missing, is scratch and sniff technology. Coffee controls can be a thing. Again, just jam your hands into those coffee grounds, rub them up, grab that controller, and start slamming the buttons with your thumbs. Anyway. Yeah. So if you wanted a smelly controller, you can get one. Hey, at least it doesn't smell like a sewer, right? The Ninja Turtles live in a sewer. They could have been like, hey, we made it smell like diarrhea. I'll take pizza over that, thank you. I love Ninja Turtles, so I found this interesting. I haven't seen the movie yet, of course, but I'm going to give it a shot. The movie hasn't even come out yet, and the studios have said that they are going to make a movie sequel and a TV show set in this new Mutant Mayhem continuity. Yeah, this broke just a couple days ago from Variety. Both Paramount, they're the movie studios, and Nickelodeon TV studios, same parent company, Viacom, but two different divisions that would develop stuff. But they're teaming up to do a movie sequel and a 2-season TV show, they said, that will be on Paramount Plus. Basically, I guess it's there to sort of bridge the timeline between the movies. The TV series is not going to use the same style of animation done with computers. It's going to be in traditional 2D animation, so we don't know exactly what that will look like yet. That could matter. But they are using the same voice cast, which are actual teenagers. That's a first for Ninja Turtles, and I think that's a cool idea. And it's also titled Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The TV show is, which of course was the name of the spin-off comic that Mirage Studios launched back in the mid to late 80s. So that's a nice reference too. Is it true that Mutant Mayhem is influenced by the toys more than the show or comics? Not that I'm aware of. I think that it's just somebody might be saying that because there's so many mutants in it. So, that's coming from somewhere. No Corey Feldman in this, but Corey Feldman did get to voice Slash on the the Nickelodeon CG animated Ninja Turtles show. So that was kind of cool that he came back. Some people are saying that like Jackie Chan does a really good job in this voice role. I hope so. It's been a while since he's made a live action movie that I've enjoyed, and I used to adore Jackie Chan. But anyway, we'll see. We'll see. Trent Reznor and Atticus Rose are composing this movie. I did not know that, but that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Interesting. Also, I should say that like another comic book project produced by Seth Rogen. He does the boys, right? He works on Invincible a little, and of course he did Preacher. Is there anything else he does? Yeah, him and his co-producing partner have done a bunch of comic book stuff. I saw him in the news recently. He was talking about this one, and they were like, "What other comic would you guys want to adapt?" And he was like, "I'd love to adapt something by Grant Morrison." He's like, "I thought about like We Three because it's so good, but it's also kind of like really sad." He didn't think that it would probably like work that well as a movie with mainstream audiences. He's probably right. It probably works best as the comic. You guys are funny. Zoe Thorogood was up for a pair of Eisners at San Diego Comic-Con last weekend. She didn't end up winning those. She did get the Russ Manning Eisner like best newcomer or something, which is good because I'll tell you, her autobiography that she released as a comic, It's Lonely at the Center of the Earth, is pretty amazing for what it does with comics, with the format, as well as just being a really raw, open, and honest look at mental health issues. It's really interesting. Well, here's her follow-up project. She's going to work on Tim Seeley's Hack Slash through Image. So here's the plot. We've got slasher hunter Cassie Hack is only just getting used to her man-monster partner Vlad. So it's taking place sort of early on in her career, sort of a flashback, when she's drawn into a new case involving a murderous bunny mascot, dead kids, and an entire squad of maladjusted teenage serial killers. So yeah, she's going to write and draw a 4-issue series that's going to come out starting in October 18th. I do like Zoe's artwork too, so I might check that out, even though I've never really read much Hack Slash stuff. I do like Tim Seeley, but I haven't really embedded myself in the world of Hack Slash, but I like Zoe's work, and I want to keep following her. This will be interesting to see where it goes. Yeah. Lonely at the Center of the Universe was my favorite comic of the year. It's impressive. It's impressive. I'm trying to remember exactly when it came out. I think it may have technically come out last year, but I only read it this year, so it's sort of new to me. Nope, her name is not Zoe Theropod. She is definitely a human being. Gotta say that she is a real person. Was it 2022? That's what I was starting to think. If I had read it when it came out, it probably would have been in my top 10 last year then. Not probably. It would have been. It would have been. The name Hack Slash is too close to the Dot Hack games, but it's been around a long time. Hack Slash was something that Tim Seeley and Stefano Caselli created, a long time. Maybe like as many as 20 years. I don't know. It's been a long, long time. A really, really long time. I hope you do read Slam Dunk. Not the easiest to find every single volume right now. There's like 2 or 3 in the middle that might take a little bit of hunting, but it's worth it. It's great, great story. And I think that there are full volume sets, but 31 volumes is a lot to buy all at once. A lot to buy. Yeah, it's been around since about 1926. Hey, you know what? That reminds me of something I want to share real quick. So I've got a buddy, goes by the pen name Benito Cereno. You might know some of his work from books like Hectoplasm, The Tick. He wrote the Adam Eve books in the Invincible universe. Tales from the Bully Pulpit. He's a really interesting, funny guy. He has a story that I absolutely love. One time he was at a comic book store and there was a really young kid pointing at like the first issue of Iron Man on the wall. And he's going, "Oh my God, I can't believe the store has something that old." And Benito's like, it's old, but you seem to think it's really old. Like, how old do you think Iron Man is? Like, when do you think it came out? And the kid's like, I don't know, maybe like the 17s. And he's like, are you saying the 1700s? And the kid's like, yeah, it probably came out somewhere around there. And that just has never stopped amusing me to think of a comic book about a guy with a suit of armor coming out back in the 1700s. That's some pretty advanced technology for the 1700s. Yeah, Marvel's been around for about 300 years now. I don't know. It's so simple, but it really makes me laugh. It just I'm glad you like it too, Gene. It just he told me about it back when it happened, and I've never forgotten it. It's been many, many years since I've heard that story. Oh yeah, Iron Man definitely outdates the Yellow Kid or any other comics from the Victorian age of comics. Steampunk Iron Man, to say the least. It would be even before you could really do good steampunk, because steampunk is more like stuff from the 1800s. We're talking like a good 100 years before we had good steam technology. So I don't know what that would be. Iron Man was a founding father. Yeah. We're just telling monthly stories about this guy since the 1700s. We're probably going to run out of ideas pretty soon. Anyway. And when I say a kid, I mean like he was still a young teenager. So anyway. Let me get back to the news. I just wanted to share that story that just popped in my head. Taking all these little detours. Sorry. Legendary does the American Godzilla and King Kong movies, as well as some other things. They also have a comics branch, and they announced that there's going to be a Godzilla Kong prequel comic. Not a prequel to the crossover that came out a couple years ago, a prequel to the sequel to that movie. We'll say it takes place between the two movies, because fairly recently a trailer came out for Godzilla King Kong sequel called New Empire. And it looks like it'll have like maybe an evil King Kong or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, they showed just like a snippet of an image from a couple pages at San Diego Comic-Con. The movie comes out in March. The comic's going to come out in February. No word on the creative team. But it could be fun. The Godzilla Kong movie was decent. I saw it in the hospital, like recovering from COVID. So honestly, my memories of that movie are very weird. It was like I was loaded up on drugs And all that I really remember was the huge fight in Hong Kong with the well-lit buildings. I have to admit, now that I think of it, I don't remember that movie super well. The Godzilla Kong Monsterverse comics have been disappointing to me. Not as good as the IDW Godzilla comics. IDW does have some really good ideas for their Godzilla books. Yeah. I did see the Loki trailer. It actually looked pretty darn strong, especially compared to what we just got with Secret Invasion. I was a lot more excited seeing that trailer for Loki Season 2. I was like, oh, okay, that doesn't seem bad. I like kaiju stuff. I like gigantic monsters fighting, so I'll see almost all of those things. I've seen every Godzilla movie, and some of them aren't that great, but I still kind of like parts of each of them, if that makes sense. I don't know. It's just something I like. It wasn't like it was amateurly put together, the show. It was just that it was not much really changed. Yeah, good performances, really dull story. That's what I'd say, a dull story. I don't know. Oh yeah, you're talking about the Secret Invasion still, right? Sorry, one of my lights is flickering. It's really annoying. Yeah, I heard that it had a crazy huge budget. I don't get that. Oh, wow. Oppenheimer and Godzilla Final War. I like both of those movies, but boy, are they at very different ends of the spectrum. I mean, Oppenheimer is so somber, as it should be. I mean, our world changed with the Manhattan Project. There's no question. Godzilla Final Wars, it's not clever, but it's one of my favorite Godzilla movies because it moves at a really good pace. Lots and lots of action. I like that one a lot. All right, let's move on. All right. Radiant Black now has a divided timeline. We talked about this briefly when I was doing my review of last week's Radiant Black number 25, which starts a storyline for 5 or 6 issues called the Catalyst War. Basically, the aliens that have created these powers are coming to Earth, and it's up to Radiant Black to stop it. Now, Radiant Black's powers have been shared by Marshall and Nathan, but they were glitching when they shared them. So one of them had to decide who kept the powers. But they released 2 versions of the comic, one in which Marshall gets the powers and one in which Nathan gets the powers. Well, Kyle Higgins, the writer, wrote in his newsletter about that. Boy, that flickering light is really obnoxious. I have no idea why it's doing that. Is it showing up like, is it really obvious on camera? It really is like affecting my eyes, but I can't figure out. I mean, are all my lights flickering? I can't even tell. I'm sorry. I'm so distracted. So here's what Kyle said about this. He said, you see, the secret of the Catalyst War is that it is actually an event told across timelines. Premier and his empire are about to challenge Radiant Black in a monumental way, with the fate of the world also on the line. And for reasons that are central to the story, both timelines coming out of issue 25 are still active. The show let readers vote on who should keep the powers, and I guess that will like resolve itself. You're gonna just try to dim the light and.
Is it still doing it?
No, actually, I think that helped. Thanks, Chrissy.
It wasn't all the way up.
Is that what it was?
I think so.
Oh, my wife is the genius of the family. She realized that the light, it's on a dimmer switch, so it just was like not quite all the way up. Thank you, Chrissy. Wow, that was really driving me nuts. I think that this is exciting. Now, you can still get like the story by choosing just one cover, but technically, Kyle has different artists drawing the interior pages for like 2 copies of Radiant Black that are coming out each month. One will focus on Marshall, one will focus on Nathan. Yeah, that does mean that it's 2 issues a month of Radiant Black, but I'm kind of excited just because I've never really seen anything quite like this done. Yes, Chrissy did rescue me. There are 4 lights. Excellent poll there, EJ. A nice reference to one of the best Star Trek Next Generation episodes. By the way, I am loving the show Star Trek Strange New Worlds. I loved season 1. Season 2 has also been just a banger. Absolute banger. Highly recommend it. Somebody asked about that, A-Man. They said, what would the trades be like? And he said that the trades would have both versions. It would go like AB, AB, AB along. Or maybe he said that it would be like, what did he say? He said that like the trade would have all of the story in it. I forget now. Darn it. He might have said that he was going to line it up with like all of the A story and then all of the B story instead of like A, B, A, B, A, B. Darn it. Tell you what, I'll get an update on this. I'm going to text Kyle, and we're not going to probably hear back right away, but probably before the show ends. I'm going to ask him, like, just let me type this up. Will the Radiant Black trades alternate or do all A story then B story? Okay, let's see if Kyle gets back to us before the show is over. Who do you prefer to be Radiant Black? Who did I vote for? I think I voted for Nathan, although now that I think about it some more, I'm a little more entertained by Marshall being Radiant Black because he's not quite got as much together. And I really like Nathan's storyline trying to become a writer in Hollywood. So, yeah, we'll see. I'm not trying to flex hard. I'm trying to get some clarity here. So, yeah. I could have, look, at least I didn't call the guy and put him like, hey, you're on the phone. You're on the show. I don't know. Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about doing that. That was fun. I did a Sonic video and tried to get like reactions from people sending them weird Sonic hentai art. We'll come back to Radiant Black if we get an answer. Let's move on with some other news. Liefeld had what I think is honestly probably a good idea. He announced that he's going to be working to build out Deadpool's Rogues Gallery in his upcoming book, Deadpool Batter Blood. Not personally that interested in reading it, but he is right that for such a prominent character, Deadpool doesn't have a lot of recognizable recurring enemies like a lot of other superheroes. So that's actually a decent idea in some ways. Although the 2 ideas that Liefeld has here, I do think are honestly a little derivative, but who knows? Maybe they would work in practice. Here's part of his quote. He said, I called up Marvel and I said, can I give Arcade a sister? Arcade famously, mostly an X-Man villain, creates gigantic killer theme parks. So Liefeld continues, who makes murderous theme parks that cost billions of dollars? Like, so can we do some virtual reality? Can we apply some 21st century logic here? And she doesn't like her brother. So we introduce her. It's called Killville instead of Murder World. And he's also creating Shatterstorm, a female gladiator from Shatterstar's world. But those aren't bad ideas. Kyle is answering me. Hold on. All right, let me jump back. Let's get some clarity here. So we've got the divided timeline. Here's what the trades will look like. He says, first it will show like what you're seeing there, 25A, and then the ending 25B, because that's just like 3 pages. So like, and then after that, it will go 26A, 26B, 27A, 27B. That's going to all take place in the 5th trade paperback. And then in the 6th trade paperback, it will also alternate 28A, 28B, 29A, 29B, 30A, 30B. So it goes through issue 30, and it's going to alternate back and forth. That's really nice of Kyle to explain that. So that's how he's going to present it in the trade paperback. Interesting question. I don't think that there's ever been an example like how that could happen. I'll be honest, guys. Like, I've met all sorts of people in comics, and because it's not a huge group of people when you really break it down, and the vast majority are definitely kind. Kyle's always been just really giving of his time, and he's got a lot of creative ideas, but he also sounds like he really listens to you when he talks. He really impresses me. He really impresses me. So people saying thank you to Kyle. That is nice of him to sort of help give that some clarity. All right, so we've got that clarified. Yeah, I'll just use the same word again. And we talked about Liefeld creating some new villains. I don't think an evil sister for Arcade is the worst idea. Again, is it a little derivative? Yeah. You could still do virtual reality with Arcade. In fact, I'm pretty sure that, the latest Murder World series, which Jim Zub and Ray Fox wrote, did essentially have some VR to it all. But anyway, we'll see. Came across this one. I don't know how many of you remember this, but back in 2021, when Valiant was still publishing a few comics a month, they had a Kickstarter for an Eternal Warrior hardcover. It's like a bunch of stories in a big, thick book. Well, people haven't been hearing back lately. The Bleeding Cool sort of followed up with all this news. The digital copies for backers did get sent out back in March, but now it's been 4 months and nobody's heard an update on when they're supposed to get the hardcover. And I would say that 2 years is a long time. I've supported several comic book Kickstarters, and I feel like within 6 months, you typically get your stuff fulfilled. You guys just supported one of my campaigns, and it's been less than 6 months, and most, if not all of you, have your copies. They'd raised $55,000 from 531 donors. That's pretty good. The former entertainment sales coordinator, Cody White, posted something about this to a Facebook thread that was going on with people saying, like, where's my book that I paid for? She wrote, I joined the Valiant team after the Kickstarter campaign was fulfilled. The publishing team had nothing to do with the book except from minimal editorial work involved with actually executing the production of the story. Printing, production of the extras, shipping, that was all entirely on the DMG team. That's the company that bought Valiant, basically, which is why it's still in limbo, because nobody at DMG knows how to do any of that. Yikes. What do you say? Valiant fairly recently announced that another book company is going to be the publisher of their characters moving forward. But no es bueno. 2 years, I think that's enough to make you worry. 2 years is a long time. 2 years is a very long time to wait for a comic to be fulfilled, because obviously the work is already done, because people did get digital copies. But that's not what they were really buying, Oh, Marvin. Yeah. That's a crowdfunding campaign that bothers me a little because obviously Liefeld fulfilled, like, he did the art, but bookstores and stuff got the Brigade books before his Kickstarter supporters. I don't understand how that one shook out. I don't know the full details, but it is frustrating. I got my black and white cover and comic tropes pin last week. I'm just waiting for Axe Wielder John. Me too, but at least Nick Pitara is giving us all sorts of regular updates, and that's a big, big book. That's not just like a 30-page comic or something, you know, like that's something like 100 pages or something. So he's, you know, I definitely believe that is still getting fulfilled. That's just a really big book. Yeah, I don't know about like the Brigade Kickstarter from Liefeld. I wouldn't have a lot of faith in that getting fulfilled at this point. I just don't know. I don't know what happened there. I don't know the full story. I have no idea, Martin. That just makes sense. I have no idea why DMG can't get their valiant people to finish it. Well, now they've got hardly any staff, to be honest. So they let a lot of their staff go. So at this point, you know, it might get fulfilled someday if Valiant can sort of turn things around. But in the meantime, don't get your hopes up. Anyway. Well, the cats have been very loud and boisterous today, but they're good. Thank you for asking. Nick is a nice guy. I have full faith in the Nickster. Nick is a really, really kind guy. I also have faith in him. I do. Yeah, I've supported a couple crowdfunding things that didn't get fulfilled. It's a little bit of a bummer. I supported the B. Claymore Hawaiian Dick book. I've sort of given up on that being fulfilled. I was a little disappointed when Clay went ahead and did a new Kickstarter within the last year for the Whispering Skull. I wanted him to finish the Hawaiian Dick one from, I don't know, is it like 10 years or something? It's been a long time, so it's a little bit of a bummer, but these things happen, I guess. These things happen. I just wish people were better about updates and could like just sort of own up to like, it's not happening because of XYZ. I'd rather just have some closure there instead of just wondering if it's still going to happen or not. But that is the risk we all take with crowdfunding campaigns. I do understand that. Marvel announced something this week. They are starting their own publishing line for toddlers. Although, am I using the right term there? I just realized ages 0 to 3. What are they called? Are they called toddlers? Are they called babies still? Like not up to age 3, right? I don't know what the right term is. I don't have kids. You know, obviously Marvel's licensed their characters to other book publishers for little kids, but they are starting their own publishing line called Marvel Beginnings. It's all books for young kids. It's going to be printed on with like soft, rounded edges, you know, soft cardboard stuff. And here was their statement. Marvel released this. They said, even the youngest of heroes to start on a course of curiosity and discovery. What? I copied and pasted that, but that sentence doesn't even make sense. Okay. This new publishing line for ages 0 to 3 features many of our youngest fans' favorite Marvel characters, rendered in a distinctive yet accessible art style, with the goal to make growing and discovery a fun and heroic adventure. Yeah, I mean, makes plenty of sense. Like at a certain point, why keep licensing that when you could print it yourself and, you know, pull in the profits? They've got Penguin Random House behind them now, so that probably makes that easier. I bet that's a huge difference is that, you know, they partnered with Penguin Random House for distribution, and I bet that's the big difference. Yeah, could be cute. I would do like these kind of educational books if I had a little kid. I think it'd be fun. I remember knowing who Spider-Man was before I ever saw a Spider-Man comic. And it was probably because, you know, he was in sort of like toys and stuff like that. So, yeah. Jack is eating just fine. Thank you for asking. He is doing very well. Jamilin says, let's see. I feel the exact same way about crowdfunding and communication. Comic artist Drew Moss has a campaign that funded in 2018 and still is yet to deliver anything. I don't know about that one. I'm really sorry to hear about it. That's tough. That's tough. Probably won't have any villains stealing pies. I think DC has that story on lock. I think that they took care of that. Oh yeah, the Electric Company. I probably did see Spider-Man teaching reading stuff on Electric Company before I ever came across a Spider-Man comic. I sort of forgot about that. I am still proud of the episode I made where I had people cook recipes from the Marvel and DC cookbooks, and also had cosplayers at New York Comic Con do the exercises from the Marvel exercise book. It's not one that's been watched a ton, but I think it's very funny. I found it funny. But yeah, somebody mentioned like the Spidey Super Stories, which were comic books aimed at younger readers that were like sort of a spin-off of the Spider-Man from the Electric Company. By the way, a bunch of those comics were written by Joss Whedon's father, if you didn't know. Just a little bit of trivia. All right. Walking Dead is, believe it or not, 20 years old. I guess I can believe that, but that number sounds big to me. That's just amazing. So, to celebrate the 20th anniversary, Image has said that they're going to do a ton of variant covers for most of their books. Just about everything that's coming out in October will have variant covers featuring zombies. The massive verse ones, you know, Radiant Black, there's like the AB cover for that, but like also No One and Dead Lucky, maybe Radiant Pink or something, but like those will all line up and have one cohesive cover. So that's kind of fun. Some of the other books, I Hate Fairyland, Ice Cream Man, Tenement, Time Before Time, tons of others. So yeah, I think that that's a fun idea. Makes sense. They did it with Spawn for his anniversary not too long ago. Walking Dead is definitely, you know, big feather in Image's cap. Could be fun. Could be fun. Always depends on the artist, but yeah. Hey, anything I can do to make everybody feel old, happy to do it. Happy to do it. What's your favorite Walking Dead character? Well, I feel like I definitely gave the impetus for Tyrese, so I guess in a way him. I suggested, those were the days when, you know, I was much closer to Robert. We don't really talk anymore. I'm sure we'd be friendly if we saw each other, but back then we talked all the time, and I proofread all of his books, and I told him, you know, what would be interesting to me is you've got like all these sort of like down-to-earth people with regular jobs, but, you know, what if you had a former NFL player, somebody that was a celebrity in his previous life and now, you know, is on the same level as everybody else? I think that would be interesting. You know, several months later, Tyrese enters the picture. You know, there was a reason why Walking Dead took place in Alexandria, Virginia. That's where I was living at the time. Although Robert's idea of where I was living, he definitely thought it was way more rural. It's like just outside of DC. It's not that spread out, but you don't have to go too far for it to be spread out. But it was kind of funny. Anyway. Yeah, if you go back to issue maybe 2 of Walking Dead, I'm in there naming the letters column. Beta from the Whispers had celebrity status. Yeah, I just thought it was an interesting idea to just sort of say, like, you know, in this world, the apocalypse has leveled the playing field. Everybody's on the same level. It's all about what skills you have and your personality. I don't know. I have zero to say that like that definitively happened, but I guess now that I think of it, if there was a way to pull up old text messages, I never thought about that. But we'd be going back like 19 years now or something. Yeah, I guess there would probably be text messages to that effect now that I think of it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It was fun. I like that comic. Thank you, Larry. Hey, Chris, are you excited for Godzilla versus Kong versus Justice League? Yes, absolutely I am. That sounds like such a fun idea. Also, are you into actors writing comics of their characters? I wouldn't have necessarily said yes, but the Paul Dano Riddler book is fantastic. Bruce Campbell recently wrote a really good Sergeant Rock run. And I'm curious to see what Iman Vellani does with Miss Marvel. So we'll see. We'll see. I can't think of any other examples other than those. Oh, right. Danny DeVito wrote a Penguin book. I never read that. I heard that one wasn't so hot, though. Oh, nice, Rob. That's awesome. But thank you for the super chat, Larry. I'm not against the idea of an actor writing a comic, but I wouldn't want them doing it just to sort of do it for the fun of it. I think that the Paul Dano story was very interesting because a lot of actors will create a backstory for the characters that they're playing. That's pretty normal. A lot of times they'll create a journal. That's a pretty typical acting exercise. Paul Dano decided to take it one step further and format that as a comic book, sort of like, he had a great book, and they didn't like rush it out to coincide with the release of the movie. They found out about it basically after the movie was done filming, and they were like, oh, this is actually a really good story. Let's do it. And I like that because I don't think, Paul Dano's a pretty serious actor. I don't think he was trying to become a comic book writer. I think he just did a good job. There are lots of actors who, or people who have acted who have done a great job on comics. I agree. Brian Posehn, a bunch of you are mentioning, Patton Oswalt. Those are guys that, I would say primarily stand-up comedians, but do a bunch of acting, and they've talked in their act a lot about loving comics. Like that's just part of, that they have a background in that. But as far as a writer working on their character, there's of course also lots of actors who have sort of come out with a comic book that's clearly designed to be a project. You know what I'm saying? Like, for instance, Keanu Reeves on BRZRKR. It's clearly designed to be a character he would play. I know Thomas Jane did one. I know Rosario Dawson did one. That stuff didn't really interest me a whole lot. That's true. Chemdog mentions Michael Dorn, because he, of course, voiced Steel and is now writing the Steel comic book. That'd be interesting. Stan Lee is a corpse, not an actor. I'm sorry, that's dark. Shatner had Tech Wars. That's true. That's true. Yeah, that's right. Nimoy did write a comic. That was like that early 90s when everybody was like a new publisher and yeah, I don't remember. I didn't read his comic. Anyway, let me get back to the news. Enough of this jibba jabba. Work continues on an AI Osamu Tezuka manga. I don't love this. I love Osamu Tezuka stuff. Love it. Well, his son is going to honor his father's legacy by creating a new Blackjack comic to celebrate Blackjack's 50th anniversary. Blackjack was this sort of outlaw doctor that would, either work for the highest bidder or just sort of traveled the world solving mystery diseases. It was honestly a really cool idea. Well, here's the plan for using AI, according to Tezuka's son. We think that however we use AI, it won't produce an end product that is better than the original Osamu Tezuka work. Correct. But it would be considerable if a work scoring 50 out of 100 is achieved. Sure. That's what we all want, right? 50% as good as the original new comic. So apparently a bunch of creators are all using AI to come up with a story and art that is ideally meant to be as close as possible to Osamu Tezuka's work. I think that that's a terrible idea, and that if you really wanted to honor Tezuka's legacy, do something like Pluto, where Naoki Urasawa reimagined one of the best Astro Boy stories in a completely different context. You know, give me Takahiko Inoue, or give me like, I don't know, Makoto Yukimura giving their take on Blackjack. I think that would be way more interesting. 50 out of 100 is an F. Exactly. Not that's a low bar to aim for. He's like, hey, even if we get 50% is good, that's an accomplishment. I'm like, is it? I just feel like, whatever, it's happening. Okay. So we'll see what this gives us. But if it's AI, it's really just going to be a mashup of ideas that have already existed, right? It's not going to give us something new. And that human element is what would be interesting. Because unfortunately, look, we've got to accept it. Tezuka is gone, right? He's gone. It would be lovely if we could get more by these creators that are no longer with us. But I think it's not healthy to not really accept that. It's healthier to accept they're gone, but they left behind this work. Let's see what kind of interpretation we can do with that work with somebody new that's worthy. There are lots of hungry, up and coming artists and writers, and there's lots of established creators that could do so much. So I like the idea of honoring Blackjack's 50th anniversary. I just wish that they would have done sort of what I'm pitching. Tezuka inspired me when I was a kid, and this crap is really disrespectful. It's stunning that like his son doesn't seem to see that. I don't know anything about his son, okay? I don't know anything about Makoto Tezuka. But it makes me like wonder if he has some sort of issues over like not having his father. His father died relatively young, like not an old man anyway. Not an old man. So anyway. Phoenix has been printed in English, but you're right that it's not like kept in print. He's got books about Buddha, books about Hitler. He's got Blackjack. He's got Astro Boy. Just created so many genres and was just such, there's no one you can really compare Osamu Tezuka to. The closest I could say in America would be Jack Kirby. Just like this creative force that just had tons of ideas and was pumping them out. But honestly, Tezuka probably created a lot more in his time. Wasn't that a quote from like one of the Star Wars movies, like the people making it going like, no one's ever really gone? Anyway. Yeah, Tezuka's really somebody special. If you don't know, like I do really recommend reading some Osamu Tezuka. It's really interesting. Really interesting. Why didn't I put this with the other Batman news? I guess I was working too last minute, but Batman Gargoyle of Gotham is a book I'm definitely looking forward to. That's another Black Label series. This one written and drawn by Rafael Grandpa. And I'm probably mispronouncing his name slightly. Amazing Brazilian creator. Just really, really talented, has a unique art style. The story is that Batman is going to make a decision to completely abandon his Bruce Wayne persona and just be Batman. It's going to introduce some new villains, and apparently it's going to have a string of murders that are sort of tied to Bruce's history somehow, something very personal. But Grandpa is a very talented creator, and that's what interests me most about that. Yes, his work is really special. Nope, no team up with the Gargoyles. Sorry. Did you see? I did not see this, of Miyazaki being shown an AI-generated animation of a worm. He was livid. Well, I mean, there's a creator who is all about, hands-on, work, taking the work. I mean, if you go to the Studio Ghibli Museum in Japan, it's gorgeous. And there's it's surrounded by lush vegetation. They have rooms just like with all the watercolors and the creative process. There's something very organic about the way Miyazaki works. I'm not at all surprised to hear that he doesn't care for AI. He's very, very hands-on and organic, and his work is all about nature, isn't it? Well, not all, but a lot of it. Yeah, it's a gorgeous museum. Gorgeous. Moving on. A bunch of comic writers joined the Hollywood strike that's going on right now. This was this past Thursday in front of NBC Universal, including writers like Pornsak Pichetshote, and I've never been sure exactly how to pronounce his name, but I definitely talked up the Good Asian book a lot on this show when it was coming out. Great book. Mark Bernardine, Jeremy Adams, David Avalon, Shauna and Julie Benson, the Lucifer showrunner Joe Henderson, and apparently it was all organized by Rance Hosley, editor-in-chief at Z2 Comics. So he just organized for a bunch of comic book writers that are also plugged into the industry to join in with the writers' strike in front of NBC this past Thursday. The picture, by the way, is not from that. This picture instead is Eric Kripke and a bunch of his writers from The Boys, which is also a comic book TV show. So, yeah. No, not all of them, actually. Not all of these people. I don't know which ones are and which ones are not, but the articles I read said that not all of these comic book creators are in the WGA, but they just wanted to stand hand in hand with it, with their friends and stuff like that. So, yeah. The comic writers are asking for trouble getting involved. I don't think so. I think that it makes sense. I think if there was ever a feasible big union that comic creators could be in, that would be a good thing for protecting pay. I think creators are tremendously underpaid in comics these days. I think that they need better access to healthcare options that you can get in a group plan. I think it makes a lot of sense to support them. No, wait. Just to be clear, they're not striking on writing comics. They're just supporting TV writers. I just to be clear, they're not writing comics. There's no strike in comics. So they're still writing comics. Yeah, thank you. If they ever wanted to join SAG or the Writers Guild of America, they don't want to be seen as having crossed lines. They're just standing with fellow writers. That's all. It was just this, show of support. Anyway, that's okay. No one. Yeah, no, they're not striking. There's all these people are still making comics. Okay, that's still happening. Yep, they're just trying to be supportive. Is all I was saying, and I think that makes sense. Look, we're going to get a lot of delays on our comic book adaptation stuff. We just got to get used to that. The Boys season 4 is definitely going to be delayed. Sony already announced that both Across the Spider-Verse, that whatever the third movie is, and Kraven the Hunter, they're backing those up. There's talk that the Marvels, which is set for November, they might push that back too, because if you can't have like Brie Larson going on talk shows to promote it, might be hard to let everybody know that that movie's out. So yeah. Yes, sorry folks. Craven is being pushed back. They can push Craven to 2030. Good one, Marvin. Larry, thank you. Did I didn't put it in the news, though, like I did see it today, the Loki season 2 trailer. I'm super psyched for it, especially because Benson and Moorhead, the Endless, are the showrunners now. Oh, I didn't realize that had switched, actually. That's interesting. I'll have to read up on that. All I can say is that watching the trailer, I was like, oh, this looks really good. It looks like it's got a direction and a purpose to it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And looking back, Loki is definitely one of the best of the Disney Plus shows. It really is. It really is. Especially now that we can compare it to so many others. What's this one? Hold on. Oh, sorry. I'd be curious to see them try to release the Marvels without being able to do press junkets. And by curious, I mean I want to beat up Bob Iger. Yeah. No, well, no, ChemDog, I specifically did not mention that. In fact, I believe that they moved Madam Web up 2 days earlier. So they are still putting out Madam Web. But Madam Web probably doesn't have the same sort of budget that the Marvels does. It's so it makes sense. The Uzumaki trailer debuted, really more of like a full scene. So it's going to be a 4-episode black and white anime series, but in English. It's going to air later this year. They don't have a specific date, but it is coming out this year on Adult Swim. The horror manga, by the way, that came out all the way back in 98 to 99. Junji Ito did it all the way back then. So this is over 20 years old. I had forgotten that Uzumaki was that old, but it is a good manga. One of his best. Adult Swim had announced that it was going to be a show all the way back in 2019. If you haven't read it or watched the trailer, it's interesting. I think that there's a lot of fidelity to the design work of how Junji Ito draws, but it's certainly not super heavily detailed, like super big budget. I mean, it's a basic cable network show, but it's a good story, so that could carry a lot of the show. The story centers around Kiri, a high school girl living in a Japanese coastal town called Kurozo-cho. Kiri and her boyfriend Shuichi find out that a spiral curse plagues Kurozo-cho. This curse impacts the residents' bodies, minds, and souls, leading to a widespread obsession with spirals. That's putting it lightly. It makes people literally warp their own bodies into spirals. Or in this scene, this guy's eyeballs are spinning independently in different directions in spirals. So it's a very creepy story. As far as Junji Ito stories go, Uzumaki is definitely up there as one of my favorites. Let's see. Was there already a live? I know that they were making one, but I didn't. If it came out, I missed that. Production IG is good. I'm just saying, like, watch the trailer and you're like, okay, this is good, but it isn't necessarily like top tier or anything. It's not bad. I'm sure that they probably are able to save some of the money by keeping it in black and white. That's got to be easier to color. It's got to be. Oh, it came out back in the early 2000s? Oh, okay. I missed that. Interesting. This is definitely better than the Netflix one. Yeah, I watched a bunch of the Netflix sort of anthology of Junji Ito horror short stories. Some of them I liked because the story was good. Some of them I was like, it's kind of mid. I don't know if I'd call any of it bad, but sometimes mid is more disappointing. Gyo had an anime adaptation, but I don't know about live action. I doubt it. I mean, if it did, I got to see that because I would love to see a shark with spider legs crawling around a city. That would be interesting. It is not bad. It is not bad. It is fluid. Yes. I want to see it. I want to see it. I'm cool. Very cool. Sounds like it's getting a good response then. Sounds like it's getting a very nice response. That's nice. That's nice. Here's another trailer, but this one for a live action adaptation of a manga. Zom 100. I don't know if any of you read that, but there's a book called Zom 100, Bucket List of the Dead by Esoharo and Takada Kotaro. It's a pretty funny manga, to be honest, although it also has like some real heart to it. Basically, this take is, okay, there's a zombie apocalypse, but the main character, Akira, is an office worker who's really just not that excited about his life. And he sees that this like sort of apocalypse represents a type of freedom that he now he doesn't have a responsibility anymore. He doesn't have to just like do this to earn money. Like he can do whatever he wants now. And so he creates a bucket list of 100 things he wants to do before he inevitably dies. It's kind of a sweet idea. So it mixes a little horror with a little comedy. It's going to premiere August 3rd, this live action adaptation. By the way, if you didn't see it, Esoharo also created Alice in Borderland, and I did like that Netflix adaptation. I think Netflix does a much better job with these live action adaptations, although not always. Cowboy Bebop didn't quite work for me, even though I thought they had a good cast. But I liked Alice in Borderland a lot. I like a lot of the live action adaptations that they've done based on Korean stuff, like High School of the Dead, or no, what's it called? Not High School of the Dead. It's called We're All Dead. It takes place in a Korean high school. Rebellious Monkey, thank you for the super chat. I'm reading Cerebus for the first time, and I'm on the High Society arc. That's a good one. But where should I stop at? Because I do remember you saying it became very bad later on. I only read for the art. Yeah, High Society and Church and State are both good, and then I feel like it kind of craps out. I didn't like the Netflix live-action Death Note movie, but I did like the Japanese 2-film series live-action Death Note adaptation. I did like that. I did like that a lot. No, I didn't mean Death Note. I'm talking about, again, 2 seasons of Alice in Borderland. We're All Dead. There's something else that I liked, I thought, but it's not coming to me. I'm sorry. It's just not coming to me right now. But thanks again, Rebellious Monkey, for the super chat. I would say that like High Society and Church and State 1 and 2 are definitely still pretty good. And after that, it really kind of meanders and gets up its own butt. I don't know what to think about One Piece. It looks like they've definitely spent a lot of money on it. I think that it's a pretty interesting visual look for adapting something that's pretty cartoony. It could work. A lot of pressure on it. You know, the creator stands by it and says, you know, he's overseen it all and he feels that it's an accurate adaptation of his vision. So he's put out some good stuff. Squid Game was a great show, Chrissy, but it was not an adaptation of a manga or anything. Yeah, I think that there's a lot to relate to about the character of Akira in Zom 100. Probably never, K-Bar. Hulk Hogan was in the news recently and talked about his name and how he got the legal rights to the name Hulk Hogan because, of course, Marvel owns the rights to Hulk. So he was on something called the Weekend After podcast. And here's his story. He's like, I own everything. I own Hulk Hogan, Hulkamania, Hulkster. I'm one of the few guys who own the name rights, trademarks, and licenses. And he talks about like how Vince McMahon Sr. wanted to call him Hulk Hogan. Right when Hulk Hogan takes off, we get a call from Marvel Comics. You're infringing on our trademark. Reasonably similar. We're going to sue you, put you in litigation. We let them have the name. I don't know about let. Marvel was going to win. Didn't license the name. I only had to pay them 0.1%. That went from 1985 to 2005. In 2005, it's over. Now, I can't use Hulk Hogan anymore, and I'm red hot in 2005. I went to my attorney. I don't give a damn what deal you make. You're going to make a deal, brother, because I need the name. What happened was I got a 1-year extension, and I had to pay them 30% of everything I made. Movies, TV, wrestling, they got 30% of everything, they being Marvel. But if they decided to sell the name, they had to give me first shot at it. They couldn't sell the name or do anything. Fair market value. All of a sudden, Marvel Comics gets in a bitch fest with WWE about intellectual properties that they can't re-air old Hulk Hogan matches. Marvel Comics lost. They owe Vince $35 million. They made a huge mistake. I don't really remember what he's talking about there. But anyway, they said, instead of paying $35 million, how about we give you the Hulk Hogan name? I heard about it and went, you screwed up now. Now I don't have to pay $35 million for the name. You have to sell it to me for fair money value, which is only $750,000. I bought the name back. Vince wanted to buy the name from me. Nah, I got this one. I bought the name back and I own everything. I'm surprised if that was happening around 2005, 2006. I really don't remember Marvel having that fight with WWE. But yeah, apparently Hulk Hogan was able to buy the Hulk Hogan name from them for fair market value, which they didn't. I don't understand how $750,000 became the fair market value. It seems like it would be worth more than that. I'm so confused. Well, I can't really interpret everything that Hulk was saying, and he might not be remembering everything completely correct either. So, keep that in mind. Just to be clear, you can't copyright a word. You can trademark it. That means that you can have a word or a term within a certain context that you have a trademark against, as in somebody can't infringe on that trademark. In this specific case, we're saying a big, strong guy named Hulk. Marvel got that in the early 60s. Okay? They've consistently been putting out material to that effect. So, 15 to 20 years later, Hulk Hogan was created and Marvel was like, no, you're going to have to pay us some sort of licensing fee if you want to call yourself that. Yeah, he is a liar. So I don't know how much of this is true. That's fair. Red hot in 2005. He was doing fine in 2005. I don't know about red hot. I don't know about red hot. I'm trying to think, was 2005 around the time that he had his WrestleMania match with The Rock? I feel like it was somewhere close to that. Anyway. Marvel's Hulk is green. Hogan's is yellow. Yes. Well, somehow he was able to create Pasta Mania, so good for him. That lasted about a year. 2005. I don't remember what he was doing in 2005. In 2005, me and every other wrestling fan I know was going, oh God, not another Hulk Hogan segment anytime he was on screen. Yeah, he's not a great guy. Moving on. A comic book store was robbed twice in the same night. So this is security camera footage from just the 28th here. This guy is smashing this window in and coming in. This is Time Warp Comics in Boulder, Colorado. So at night, somebody just kicked in the window, grabbed a bunch of graded comics up front. The store owner says that night they had about $13,000 worth of merchandise stolen. And here's the worst part. This guy came in, he was out within 2 minutes. The security camera footage then just shows another guy walking by and he realizes that this is open. So a second guy just takes advantage of the opportunity. He doesn't call the police. He ran inside and grabbed more merchandise. So this first guy supposedly drove off in a white Lexus SUV. Okay. So if you guys live in the Colorado area and you hear about some comics that are suspicious going up for sale, at least now you know, and maybe you could tell Time Warp Comics about it and they could tell the police. I don't know. I hope that they recover their merchandise. It's too bad this happened. Let's see. Oh man, I love Time Warp. I've done signings there in the past. Great people. I guess he's run that place for something like 39 years. Brian Posehn did a signing there in the last day or two. Wow. Only a scumbag rips off a comic shop. Thank you so much, Francisco Q. That's really, really nice. I appreciate that a lot. It's pretty shitty that the second guy ran in and stole a bunch of stuff. Yeah, it makes me really sad that I guess I think it's people that know something about comics that know what they can do because, and I'm not trying to give ideas, but I think that I've seen this happening and, you smash your way in and you just grab some of the graded slabbed comics. Why? Because that they're valuable. They're usually kept at the front and they're not super well secured. I think a lot of stores need to do a better job finding a way to secure them better. And then all you really have to do, if you think about it, is break it out of that slab. And you could probably sell it for a little less or get it graded. It's just, yeah, it's not hard. Yeah, the second guy couldn't even break his own window. He just went in when he saw it was open. It's so shitty. It's so shitty. Before we had graded comics, it just wasn't as common of a thing because can you imagine breaking into a comic book store and running to the back issue bin and flipping through them and going oh, there's Fantastic Four number 15. Nobody can do that. But with graded comics, boy, that just here's our most valuable stuff. Now, then again, comic book stores have always typically put a lot of key issues up on the wall. So I guess it's always been a risk, but it's frustrating that this is happening. It really makes me sad for the stores. 2 of my comic shops got broken into, one today, one twice a few weeks ago. Oh my God. I hate hearing that. If I started a comic book shop, and I don't think it's a business I really want to do, but if I did, I'd have some pretty healthy insurance on it. I would. Yeah, it seems that way, but I don't know. I haven't looked at any actual trends. It seems that way, but I don't know. The reason I'm mentioning it is not to do fear mongering so much as if we spread the word, there's a small chance somebody might hear something and maybe the store can recover some of its lost inventory. That's the main reason I'm mentioning it. 2 more pieces of news I want to go over. Marvel announced a Secret Wars, I called it spinoff, I guess sort of a sequel. By the way, this is not for the Jonathan Hickman Secret Wars. This is a 4-issue series coming out in November to honor the 40th anniversary of the 80s Secret Wars book. The one where Spider-Man first got his black costume and stuff. It's going to be written by Tom DeFalco, Artist is going to be Pat Olive. I kind of wish that they'd gone ahead and reached out to folks like Mike Zeck and Jim Shooter. I think that would be pretty special. Anyway, it's just going to be 4 issues set on Battle World. That's the area that the Beyonder created, just focusing on a bunch of fights that we supposedly didn't get to see back then. Okay. I loved Secret Wars, by the way. The first Secret Wars is a blast. It's got good art. It's a simple story, but it's fun. It features a lot of characters interacting that really hadn't before. And it created, for the time, some really fun toys. I didn't have any, but I always wanted some. I always wanted them. I do not like Doc Octopus' chance against Thor. I guess it depends. If he's got his adamantium tentacles, maybe he's got a chance. Oh yeah, Doctor Doom was treated so well in that. Like, he really, he went for it. You know, he allied himself with some of the heroes, but it was all just a ploy to try to steal the Beyonder's power, and he kind of succeeded for a little while. It was so ambitious. So ambitious. If you haven't seen Titania lately, it just means that you're not reading the latest She-Hulk book, because Titania definitely shows up as a supporting character in She-Hulk. She-Hulk has started a fight club so that some characters can work off their aggression. She's also part of the team Gamma Flight. So she has been used by Marvel a bunch lately. And the last piece of news is Richard and Wendy Pini were in a New York Times article this past week. Actually, I think it might have only come out yesterday or the day before. And the article was about what happens to comics collections and similar collections when somebody dies, because they're talking to a bunch of people that have lots and lots of stuff for valuable collections, but that none of their family really wants it. And so it actually becomes kind of confusing for the family on those sad situations where somebody passes away and they've got a valuable collection and the family knows that there's value to it, but they don't really know that stuff. So how do you handle it? And one part that was interesting was just talking to Wendy and Richard. Wendy, of course, writer and artist of ElfQuest, and Richard, helps publish it and edit it, and so they sort of made it together, but it's mostly Wendy. And they wondered, what were they going to do with the original artwork? Because, she just had thousands of pages of original art, and that was sort of a valuable collection, but they didn't know they didn't want to break it up and sell it piece by piece. They wanted to keep it together because of, basically how hard she worked on it. And their solution came in 2013 when a curator for the museum at Columbia University approached them, and they ended up donating the original art to them. So that's sort of kept in a museum, and that's nice. That gave them a lot of peace of mind. And I've got a question here, but little piece of trivia. If you didn't know, and I do talk about this in my episode on letter columns on Comic Tropes, but Richard and Wendy actually met in a Marvel Comics letter column. I believe it was Silver Surfer, if I'm remembering correctly. They were interested in the same thing. Back in those days, Marvel literally printed your name and address in the letters column. They were just doxing their fans. It was a different time. They started out as pen pals and became something more. They've been together for a very long time now. Kind of a sweet little comic book story. But I am curious. I bet a lot of us have a collection. What would you want to have happen to your collection? Do you think your family would want that? Know what to do with it? Do you have a friend that you donate it to? What would you want to happen in, don't focus on the sad part of the dying, but if you weren't there, what would you want to have happen to your collection? I don't know. It's didn't realize I had like this sort of. Oops, I better not fiddle with it too much or I'll unplug it by accident. Yeah, I don't know. For what it's worth, I would say if my friends want to pick through, friends and family, to be clear, but like if they want to like pick through the comics or toys and keep some of them because they like some of them or they just want to keep one or two that like has an emotional connection, feel free. Otherwise, just sell for whatever you can get. Just sell it as a big lump thing. Let's go to a local comic shop or put it all as a lot on eBay. Just sell it all at once. And you might not get what it's truly worth, but better than just holding on to it and having like a hard time figuring it out. You're taking your collection with you to heaven or hell. Congratulations. That's smart. That's smart. My collection is small, so I will try and sell it before my time is up with some stuff going to family. Well, that's sweet. That's nice. I have no idea what to do with my collection. Lots are at my parents' home, other stuff in another state in storage. I think it's an issue a lot of people just don't want to think about because none of us like thinking about our own death, but you also don't want to necessarily burden your next of kin, do you? I don't care what happens to my collection if I'm dead because I am dead. No, but maybe you care about the people whose responsibility it will be. Let's see. I mailed some of my self-published comics to you today. Should be arriving Saturday. Oh, that's really exciting. Thank you so much. That's really kind of you. Your most prized comic book, most emotionally attached comic book? Mine would be something like The Tick, Ninja Turtles, something like that I read early on. Getting buried in a coffin made out of grated slabs. That could cost a little bit, though. Give it to my nephews. Donate it to libraries and hospitals or something like that. As long as they want to take it. Sometimes they're like, no, we've got enough, thanks. It depends on the area you live in. That's okay. I lost my collection to a flood, so not to worry anymore. I lost a year's worth of my collection to a flood the end of my freshman year in college. So I feel you. It was frustrating because I kept reading, but there was always this gap in the middle. So there was a part of me that didn't mind when I just sort of sold off almost my entire collection 10 years ago when I moved across the country. My sons are getting mine. They'll appreciate them. However, I wish to be buried with my Excalibur #1. Well, that's cool if you've got one that means something to you. And I'll say that, you know what? I like that idea. Like if my family is listening, Gene or Chrissy, if you just want to choose a random comic and toss it in there with me, I kind of like that. I hope to give my stuff to friends and family and maybe hold on to big comics for future kids or niece and nephews hoping to sell some off. I think as I get older, I'm a little less attached. I do still sort of enjoy the collecting, but I don't really enjoy the having part as much as I used to. I'd be very willing to sell or give it away if it was easy. If it was easy, I'd get rid of so much. Had to sell prize comic collection to pay for college semester. Still regret it to this day. Comics is better than a college degree. I don't quite line up there, but respect. I appreciate your love of comics. I need a haircut. I'm just like looking at this. This is crazy. I'm grading all my high value stuff, writing notes for my son to know what to do. Good. I'm planning to take out all the key issues, mark them, and tell my family to keep the valuable ones and sell the rest. All right. I just won't die. Thank you for the super chat, A-Man. And that's honestly smart. You might be one of those 1 out of every 10 that don't die. Let me give some quick thoughts on some comics that came out this past week. Whoops. I haven't really been following X-Men much the last couple of years. I liked Jonathan Hickman's Powers of 10, House of X stuff. But then I just felt like the Krakoa age was kind of going on a long time. But I did like that it was at least something new. I did. And I've heard that there's some good X-Men books within the last couple of years. I decided to pick up their Hellfire Gala one because I am following what's happening with Ms. Marvel and stuff. It definitely surprised me. First of all, it's a little hard to tell like which artist does which page, because it's jumping all over the place. But they've got like tons of artists. Miss Marvel has been reborn through the mutant resurrection protocols, because it turns out she was actually a mutant this whole time, also an Inhuman. But because she became an Inhuman before her mutant gene activated, the Terrigen mists didn't kill her like they would kill most mutants. Not a great drawing there, by the way. That doesn't really look like Kamala to me. But they kind of breeze right past that, and it's time for the gala, where they invite, celebrities and other superheroes to their island. All the mutants are basically living in harmony. They all dress up like it's the Met Gala. So there's some really creative outfits. I like that. And then once we get like several pages in, the bad guys just show up. Orcus is like this sort of terrorist organization made up of humans that don't want to be displaced by mutants in the long run. They just want to end mutants. And they send in Nimrod, like this super sentinel thing, and he just starts killing so many mutants. Like tons of the regular characters are killed off. Tons. And then even like the backup characters, folks, this is like beyond a mutant massacre, just to be clear. This totally resets the status quo. I don't think that they can resurrect people now, because I think that their technology and biological means of doing that, it seems to have been killed off. I imagine some of these characters might come back, but they kill off so many characters in this. I was stunned. Just tons of characters killed off. Fair question. Something Kamala asks right away. She's like, so do we know what my mutant power is? And Professor X is like, not yet, actually. It hasn't come out. He's like, we can coach you and try to figure it out. She ends up going on the run with some X-Men once all this goes down. A few other X-Men were called away to distract them from this, the X-Men that tend to work with the Avengers. So some of these mutants were safe, but Professor X loses hundreds of thousands of mutants in this. It's crazy. It's crazy how many characters they killed off in this. This is pretty bonkers. So honestly, it's a pretty interesting issue. It's a thick one too. I mean, it is $9, but this resets a lot. It resets things in a much bigger way than I thought was going to be reset. So that was surprising. I can't say like I loved it, because it's not a very heartwarming story where the heroes win. I don't know. I just don't know. 250,000 mutants died, and they said in the issue because the portal was a trap. Exactly. So like they've had these like teleportation portals, but Orcus secretly had like them sort of poisoned, and like Xavier was like held hostage to evacuate every mutant to leave this island. And then he finds out that everyone he forced to go through the portal died. He's like, I just fed them to a grinder. He is devastated. He's devastated. There's been the mutant massacre. Grant Morrison had Cassandra Nova use a Sentinel to devastate. What was that mutant island back in the day? Started with an M. I'm forgetting it all of a sudden. Anyway, they killed off tons of mutants and tons of like the regular X-Men characters. I don't know where it's going from there, but I kind of do like it when I don't know where something's going. I do like being a little surprised. I enjoyed this one a lot, actually. This one, Ultimate Invasion issue 2, does some interesting stuff because the bad guy in this is called Maker. He's essentially an evil version of Reed Richards, the Reed Richards from the original Ultimate Universe. And he's supposedly, like, he seemed to be creating or recreating the Ultimate Universe. Not exactly. He's creating a new world with some of these like superheroes, but he's very much in control and has a long-term plan. What was interesting is Bryan Hitch is drawing this, and it recreates the original Ultimates book that was basically the Avengers book that Bryan Hitch drew with Iron Man, but it's Howard Stark, Tony's father. But a lot of the dialogue is actually the same. A lot of the panel layout is the same. So it mirrors itself in a very strange way. It has different meaning. So there are characters we've seen before, but they're very different. Like Hulk is part of, he's like follows Buddhism or something. He's really calm and stuff. A bunch of Avengers from parallel worlds try to defeat Maker and just utterly fail. The artwork's gorgeous, and it's going in a path that I don't know where it's going. Maker has some very strange plans that I don't fully understand yet, but it's not as simple as just remaking the original Ultimate Universe. So I'm curious to see where it goes. I like this. I like this a lot. What is the I Farted comic? I don't know what one that is. I don't know if I've got that. Yeah, he's basically the god of that time, of this timeline that he's created. It's interesting. It's interesting. Yeah, basically, the Avengers, like like tons of duplicates, all come from the future. But Maker anticipated that, and he rounded up their modern day ancestors and just kills them, and that just causes like all the Avengers to melt instantly. It's crazy. This is the final issue of the X-Cellent by Peter Milligan and Mike and Laura Allred. I love this book. Basically a sequel series to the X-Force X-Statix, but focusing equally on the villain Zeitgeist and his team as well as the heroes. And they've been in a battle of social media this whole time. In this one, Zeitgeist becomes a god. He becomes even more ruthless. He's got to be like one of the most hateful villains I've ever come across. I really despise Zeitgeist, but I enjoy despising him. Great art. I mean, come on, Mike Allred, he's amazing. He's just one of my favorites. Just love him. As usual with these books, a lot of deaths and stuff. It does end rather abruptly. It ends fairly abruptly, but I think it said everything it set out to say about social media and satire. And part of me saying it ended abruptly is mostly probably that I just wanted more, because I really like these two, this writer and artist team doing mutant stuff. It was fun. It was different. It didn't feel like it's in the Marvel universe, but it's not like super explicitly in the Marvel universe. There's not like lots of crossovers or anything. It's just having superheroes as celebrities, and what that means now with social media as compared to back when the original book was done. It was more reality TV. So I liked it. This is also, so that was the final issue of the X-Cellent. This is the final issue of this She-Hulk run, although it is going to continue with the same writer and artist. They're just sort of like rebooting the concept slightly. So it's just one of those things. But, these days, Marvel puts the legacy numbering under the big numbering. So as long as they keep the legacy numbering, I don't mind them restarting things. This is, I mentioned earlier, Titania. There she is. She's part of Punch Club. Gorgeous art. Funny, charming, romantic. She-Hulk basically calls her boyfriend to save the day, and he does. And they've made me like Jack of Hearts, a character I never really cared about before. I never cared about him before, but now he feels like a real person. He likes to cook. He likes to write poetry. He doesn't really care that much about being a superhero. He just was turned into one, so, he was doing the right thing. It's good. It's really good. And I love these covers by Jen Bartel. I mean, that is just striking. That stood out to me on the shelf. Whether you like She-Hulk or not, just so much dominant green and just a nice clean pose, simple header. I don't know. This really stood out to me on the shelf. Let me go to this one. Second issue of the Incredible Hulk run by Phillip Kennedy Johnson and Nick Klein. This has basically got, Bruce Banner on the run again, not getting along with Hulk, and all sorts of monsters are coming out of the woodwork and want something out of the Hulk. I don't know exactly what. This one basically has zombies. Lots of zombies. And they're really creepy looking ones too. This small town is all led by this tiny little girl zombie. Nick Klein's art is perfect for these monster stuff. It's really disturbing. Great use of shadows, great composition. The only thing that's funny about this is that both Hulk and the new Blade book both have, a new monster character emerging that all the monsters are willing to follow, and all are willing to aim themselves at the hero. So Incredible Hulk and Blade are both sort of featuring a similar idea. Yeah. This follows closer to the Immortal Hulk than that sort of divergence with that Donny Cates had. Basically, this says that Hulk did something when he sort of closed the green door that allowed gamma-powered people to always resurrect, but that did allow some sort of mother of all monsters to resurrect. So I don't know exactly how that works yet, and I don't really care. Hulk fighting monsters is a good idea. So I think that we're going to see a lot of the big... We'll see. We're seeing new characters, first of all, like these zombies and stuff. But we're probably going to see some other classic monsters pop up in this book, I think. I think we're going to see a lot of Hulk going up against monsters, which is cool. Ah, thanks, Michael. Yeah, if you guys could take 2 seconds to just hit the like button here, that definitely helps the channel. Helps it get recommended to more people. Oh, I've got the Uber Owls omnibus. The Stray Bullets is just fantastic. Fantastic book. Not Hulk Hogan fighting monsters, the Hulk fighting monsters. But this is good. I liked Immortal Hulk so much. This is also really capturing my imagination. Hulk versus monsters instead of aliens and super strong guys like Juggernaut, versus monsters. I'm curious. Speaking of monsters, the final issue of Nightclub came out. Double sized, so it costs $3.99 instead of the $1.99 it's been costing. But that's okay. And this is basically just teenagers that were turned into vampires, but decide to dress up in luchador outfits and solve crimes and be superheroes. And in this one, they go up against the people that made them, older vampires that dress up in biker gear to go out and fight them. So there's some good action. As far as Mark Miller books go, this is the one I've enjoyed the most in a decade. I sincerely like it. Although at the very end, it does hint that any sort of sequel story could go in a dark way with a friend getting, hurt. The superheroes are they're 3 friends, right? This guy has a crush on her, but halfway through the book, she falls in love and kisses him. So this guy ends the issue feeling disaffected and angry at them. That's going to hurt to lose. I like the idea of 3 friends more than a girlfriend, boyfriend versus an old friend. I like that more. BRZRKR was an interesting idea that I didn't 100% love, but I decided to pick up this standalone prequel that just came out because it's written and drawn by Steve Skroce, a guy I really admire. And it tells a story of this Keanu Reeves character, Unute, I don't know how it's pronounced, back in some sort of undefined ancient era where he defended Atlantis. Okay, fine. So he's this like immortal warrior that can't be killed, right? And he just, protects Atlantis. But Atlantis is dealing with like a corrupt vizier who ultimately summons Cthulhu. So if you've ever wanted to see Keanu Reeves fight Cthulhu, this is the book for you. Very violent, very cool though. BRZRKR, Poetry of Madness from Boom Studios, Steve Skroce, writer and artist. Keanu Reeves had the idea. It's clearly based on him. I like this a lot more, actually, than the whole BRZRKR series. So, this is fun as hell, folks. An immortal warrior versus Cthulhu. Awesome. Just so good. So fun. So, kind of a surprise, right? You probably didn't, unless you picked it up already, you might not have heard about it. It's good. I would say... there's a lot of good books this week, though, just to be clear. I like Nightclub. I really like Incredible Hulk. I really like She-Hulk. This wasn't the best issue of X-Cellent, but I loved the whole run. And these I found interesting. This one a little bit more. These I found interesting. And then the last thing I read was Kirkman and Samnee came back with a new issue of Firepower. They took a small hiatus. This is a double-size issue. It looks great. I don't dislike it, but it's not my favorite thing that I've read from Kirkman. It really feels like it's an Iron Fist story. I don't know how to describe it any more than that. The coolest thing that happens is that this bad guy has a massive dragon, and he creates a tidal wave to devastate Chicago. That just happens while the heroes are trying to train to get ready to face this guy. They can't face him yet. But here's the thing. I'd love more pages like this. There's a lot of talking in this book. A lot of talking. And that's not uninteresting. But this is a book about like martial artists and dragons. And not like, I don't know, an awful lot of pages about like the heroes just sort of talking about what they're going to do. And honestly, I felt like it was kind of repetitive. This looks gorgeous. It absolutely does. But I'd really love to see a hell of a lot more fighting. Now, look, maybe I'm spoiled because I was just reading or like reviewing really some super fast-paced manga, slam dunk stuff. And this is like really fast-paced, not as much dialogue, so you go through these pages fast. You're like, oh, okay, cool. That happens, that happens, that happens. And it spoils me a little. It does. I would just say that, like, I know Robert can do it because I've seen him do it. I loved Invincible. I loved Walking Dead. I've loved a lot of the stuff he's done. He's also very funny. And I just feel like if he could just put, like, way more action and a few more good jokes in this, I'm willing to go with the premise. I just wish this was faster paced. Those are my thoughts. But as far as a surprise this week goes, I didn't have a lot of... I didn't go in expecting a lot out of this because I thought that the series was okay. It was okay. This was fun, though. Steve Skroce can draw a lot of detail on violence, and I just did not expect to see Keanu Reeves fighting Cthulhu. It's violent. Yes, that's violent, but there's a lot of detail to it, and it's action-packed. It's fun. It's really fun. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Void Rivals, I think I talked about last week for issue 2. I like it. I think that that's moving at a decent pace. I'm okay with how much talking there is in that, because it's two people stranded on a planet that have been enemies and are learning stuff about each other. That's a good part. And I understand that the good guys are trying to train themselves up to get ready, but there's a lot of talking about training and a lot of talking about forgiveness and stuff like that. And I'm like, I would really much rather see these folks actually, like, you know, fight and go like, you're not like focused enough, or you need to learn this new technique and you need to knuckle down. Something about, like, you know, really good training. Was that Slam Dunk volume the story from the first Slam Dunk? Fair enough question. Sort of. So Slam Dunk had 31 volumes of Tankobon. In volume 25, an important game starts. That game goes all the way through issue 31. Now that might sound like the game is going slow. It actually makes it feel like it's going very fast, because you're just reading like page after page of like seeing the action. That game is the sort of primary framing device for the first Slam Dunk. Just one basketball game. There's several basketball games across this whole series. Volume 25 through 31, Takehiko Inoue adapted into a movie. But the cool thing is, the movie is very loyal to the actual game. Very loyal. Same dialogue, the same moves, the same pacing, all of it. But it makes a change. Instead of focusing on Hanamichi Sakuragi, it focuses on the point guard. Where is he? There. Ryota Miyagi. And it gives us his backstory, which we didn't get in these comics. So we get something new as well. We get something new. Really interesting. Really interesting. For Void Rivals #2, I had to look up that character online. Yeah, I talked about that last week. There was the Skuxoid was a mercenary from Transformers Season 3 that shows up in Void Rivals. So that's a little bit of a surprise. I really need a haircut. Anyway, I think that's everything I need to do for news this week and comics reviews. Wayne, I picked up the first volume of Kaiju #8. I have not had time to read it yet. I didn't read absolutely everything that I picked up for comics this week, to be honest. I still have World Tree by James Tynion to read. I have Ninja Turtles Usagi Yojimbo to read. I think there was a new issue of New Burn that came out. So I didn't have time to read everything. I was really working hard to try to get that Slam Dunk review ready on Sunday morning, like I usually like to release it. I released it this morning instead. It took a lot of work. There are certain elements that are way faster working on this machine. I've got a much bigger screen. I've got a nice setup here where I've got a good amount of desk space. And the processing power on this thing is amazing. I have been like rendering my videos on the same Microsoft Surface for 7 years. And it typically will take at least 2 hours to render a video that I make, right? I render it on this 2 minutes. 2 hours versus 2 minutes. That's how much of a difference it is. Crazy. But this was the first time I was using this computer, so I had to set up a completely new workflow, just like move a lot of the assets onto this computer and set that all up. Yeah. You know what, Kevin, I got only the first issue of Rogue Sun, and then I stopped, and I wish I'd kept with it because it does look good. I'm going to pick that up in trade paperback form the next time I go to a comic convention. All right. I think that's everything I've got to talk about. Thank you, everybody. If you get a chance to just hit the like button on this, that means a lot. And also, please consider checking out my review, my analysis, really, of Slam Dunk on Comic Tropes. And maybe even consider sharing that, because manga episodes don't get watched quite as much. But I'd love a lot of people to see it because it's a comic I'm really passionate about. Thanks so much, everybody. I will see you next week. Time to work on some Ninja Turtles stuff for comic tropes. Keep reading comics.